We knew early on, in order to just implement technology in a dynamic environment of a construction site, we needed to make it as easy as possible for them.
Welcome to UpTech Report. This is our Founder's Journey series. UpTech Report is sponsored by TerraLeap. Learn how to leverage the power of video at terraleap.io. I'm joined by my guest today, Alex McManus, who's based in Philadelphia. She's the CEO and co-founder of Eyrus. Now, this is part 2 of our discussion. Go back and listen to part 1, where we heard a little bit more about their platform. It's a workforce productivity tool focused around automated data for project sites, helping produce actionable metrics and insights. But here, Alex, I want to hear more about your journey. How did you get to where you are today? This is actually not your first venture. This is your second venture. You already sold the other one. Help me, what's the journey that you've been on?
All right. So the question is, how far back do we want to go?
Well, let's go back. All
right. So, I mean, if I went all the way back to when I was a kid, I was always entrepreneurial, and I was with my family, right? So to the point where we're always trying to find different ways to kind of make money, from putting on little carnivals at the end of our street, which is a bit silly because we lived in the country, so we didn't have a lot of drive-by traffic, right? To your typical, let's sell chocolates at Christmas time, right? But so I think not just myself, but kind of my brother, my sister, my cousins, we kind of all moved in that direction.
You had that in you, inbred. And your first business was with your brother, correct?
Yes. So the first business we started was with my brother. He was a PhD chemist. So we were always, basically our conversation was, Stefan, one day you're going to invent something and then we're going to create a business.
And it happened. You did it.
It did happen. It helps that he had a lot of kind of insight into one specific knowledge base, which was chemistry. And he has a very kind of creative background. So he had invented a new material, which enabled kind of from a big picture, something that was not recyclable to be recyclable. And he said, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. What can we do with that?
How can we apply it? Wow.
Yeah. And at the time, he was in Berkeley, and I think I was still in San Francisco. So we were right in the middle of kind of venture capital, everybody starting a business. So I said, there must be something we can do with that. So we should start a business and do venture. And
your side, your experience has been on the business side this whole time?
Yes. So I started as a mechanical engineer, and coming out of school, quickly decided that I didn't want to necessarily be a traditional engineer. And I love the idea of consulting, which was just getting into solving different problems.
Is that what you did at the Gordian Group?
Yeah. So with the Gordian Group, fantastic company, really enabled me out of school to get my feet very wet very early, right? And to work with them to solve problems. It was a consulting company in the construction industry, which was the second company I started, right? So, and they were amazing at kind of aligning incentives in the whole construction market and bringing people together kind of prior to construction and after construction. So leaping forward to my second company, they just left a big hole during construction, which was
in the middle, when it's actually happening.
Yeah. So I was like, let's bring some data into that area as well. But that company enabled me to really early on get into the world of management consulting, problem solving in the construction industry with data and software. But management consulting is very business focused. Mm-hmm. How do we reorganize an organization around a new technology?
If you could go back to yourself when you started either the second business, or even if you want to go back to the first business, so whether 6 years or it was 10, 15 years ago, and you could share something with yourself, what's one thing that you would tell yourself?
I think I'm actually still telling myself this, but it's really not to be afraid to reach too far, right? If that makes sense, right? So have a lot of creative ideas, but not to keep thinking about how much farther you can take the idea or the concept.
Because you're finding that often we can be just nearsighted and say, well, maybe I'll just go to here, but it's actually much better to if you're going to just reach further?
Yeah, so being nearsighted about kind of the impact something can have, right? The value that can be generated with the idea. I think a lot of times I think, oh, well, if I thought about it, somebody else thought about it, right? But being able to say, wait, I thought about this and it does have these values, and let's educate people and understand where we can go with that knowledge.
Interesting.
I know.
Now, for you, over this time, both for the first company and the second one, VC backed or bootstrapped?
So a little bit of both. So the first company, it's a chemical company, and I don't think you hear a lot, or a materials company. You don't hear about a lot of material startups, and there's a reason for that.
High capital costs, I imagine.
Very high capital costs. And so we did take some venture backing, but then quickly found out, right? And we got lucky in having really good relationships with people that understood material science, right? And we're focused in moving kind of technology within materials. There's a huge opportunity there. It doesn't scale the same way without the capital that you will in a software or data business. So we took some venture funding, but quickly realized this was not going to be something that went through rounds of venture funding. So then at that point, we did some grants, right? Because you're in the kind of material science side of the world. We got some chemistry going on. And we're able to just run a very streamlined operation. And then we really funded more through joint development agreements. Right. So worked with some of the bigger chemical companies, as they funded the technology, and eventually got bought by one of those companies. Right. So it's not a bad exit strategy either.
So if someone were exploring a similar route with a similar technology, actually that could be an exit strategy that they keep in mind, is finding those who maybe funding as you go along, that they acquire you in the end.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it has its limitations, right? Because you have a very small market of potential acquirers, but at the same time, it's my word of the day, but it's a very aligned market, right? So you're able to kind of match your technology and your goals with the end acquirer pretty early on, because it is so capital intensive. So in the end, the company that bought Kenora is building a chemical plant and making the material, which is amazing and a fun thing to see in the world.
Now for Eyrus, was that VC backed as well?
We started with founder funding.
Okay. And were you running this the same
company? No.
Yeah, were you at the same time, right?
Yeah, there was some overlap. But Hussein and I came in and we did do some initial founder funding, which I think really helps. And so we funded the initial kind of concept of the company. So as we were building that concept and running basically kind of doing a test of it in the marketplace, this is actually how we got our first customer, which was a huge Fortune 100 company building a headquarters. We said, what do you think of this idea? And, would you use it? And they said, that's great. Can we have it by the end of the year? And we said, well.
Okay. So you knew, you had a contact. You're like, we're thinking about creating this. They had a need, and they're like, can you build it by the end of the year? And so that's what started it.
That is what started. And in fact, we had designed the concept out, in a little pitch deck, so you could see what the software was going to look like on a laptop. And they said, all right, we want that. I said, well, we don't have it. And they said, no, it's right there on the laptop. And so that was just really, really
that's a mock-up
from our designer who put that together for us. So we were like, oh, well, we should build this.
Now, did you had this contact already from your just previous work in management and stuff, and your partner as well?
So my co-founder in this, Hussein Shokami, he comes from the construction industry, but from a different angle, where he was kind of an architect for many years. Then he got into project management of large construction projects. And then he did a little bit on the real estate development side. So he came in with a lot of those kind of contacts on that side of I'm building a big project.
But selling the business already to your first client before you've built the software sounds like a smart idea.
A smart idea, right? I mean, it's like the definition of like the lean startup, I guess, right? So
yes. Were you able to get it done in that before the end of the year?
So what we did is we were able to build a kind of beta version, and we were able to put up kind of our network on site to collect data, but we didn't have so we were collecting data by the end of the year, and then we had the interface to do it a couple months later. So they couldn't really visualize the data right away.
But the data was coming in, so they could.
The data was coming in, which was really important, and it kind of, which is really fun. The other thing we needed to do, and we've since like streamlined so many of these operations, is we knew early on, in order to just implement technology in a dynamic environment of a construction site, we needed to make it as easy as possible for them. And while we didn't have the software feature set up yet, what we ended up doing is, I caught a lot of hamster wheeling, right? But instead of having the client do the work, we knew our software in the end should do the work, but we didn't have it built. So we collected data from the site, right? They gave us handwritten information, and then we inputted it.
So when you're starting out, sometimes you have to do a little bit of extra hard work because it will be valuable in the end.
Yeah. And then we since built the systems, and kind of the beauty of doing that is it helps you, when you're really kind of getting your hands dirty and rolling up your sleeves, understand how you want to build your software to make that process easier, right? So it gives you a little bit more insight. It's not that we did that on purpose. It's just the way it worked out, but it then helps us build things in a way that are going to make more sense.
And potentially by doing it hand, you don't create a certain feature set or product that, or inputs that you're like, well, actually that we don't even need this. So this is what we need.
Yeah. So you really get to focus very quickly on what's important if you have to do it by hand.
Now, funding is one thing. So you bootstrapped at the beginning, you got your first client, and then you got funding after that. Once you're like, all right, we're ready to really build this out.
Yep. And what we did is we said, let's do a friends and family round. We got something here, and taking friends and family is, it's kind of stressful. Friends and family money. I think if you're an entrepreneur, but we're like, all right, this is something real. I think we can, allow people to participate. And in that process, I think we did a pitch competition in DC, and we got incredibly lucky because at the Motley Fool, which is kind of a financial kind of services information firm, was there at the competition, and they at the same time were deciding, hey, we might want to start a venture fund. So we got just very, very lucky that they heard the competition. I think we won the first round. I don't think we won the second round, but we did get an introduction from that to the Motley Fool, who was kind of baiting whether they wanted to get into venture. And so they came into our friends and family round, which was great.
Oh, wow. Okay. Just get them early on there.
Yeah, they came in early on, and they were able, which was very helpful, to create some structure into that round early on, which is really important and not something you're always thinking about as an entrepreneur, right? So we did a data room and tried to be a little bit better with our paperwork and our organization from the financial side. Right. So they were very, very helpful in that. And I think that set us up for success later on.
And from that point, what was the year that you pitched that one client, and then to how long until you did that first friends and family?
So mid 2015, we started the company, but we kind of started the company after we already talked to the client. So we're like, all right, this is good, right? Like, we'll do this. And then I think we did the friends and family round in 2016. And then we did an internal round in 19. So we had the Motley Fool on board. We had another institutional investor. And so we've done an internal kind of round to, again, actually clean up our share structure a little bit.
Gotcha. And then grow from there. That one thing is to have the right funding, but the next thing is to have a good team, to be able to execute and grow. From building that team, actually, how big is the team today?
So I like the stat. So last year, in the middle of the year, we were 7 people. And this year, right now, we're about 17.
Okay. That's growth from last year for sure. Yeah. 7 to 17.
Nice amount of growth, and just a fantastic team.
From those hires, what would you say is one of the biggest learnings from hiring people, whether actually it's from this venture or your previous one, that comes to your mind? Maybe even people make some mistakes
Yeah.
and tips on how to avoid making those mistakes.
So I think there's a phrase that's commonly used that's like hire slow, fire fast.
Mhm.
Um, we don't follow that, but I like part of it. So
Yeah, like I like it, but
I like it, but we don't do it. So we tend to hire fast. And then something I do think we need to do, and we haven't had a lot of turnover, but when somebody's not a good fit, the fire fast is very important. Um, you
Mhm.
know, Hussein and I are both people, right? And we like our team. We like to create a family environment. So we haven't had too many, but we have had some people in the kind of strategic roles that were not good fits.
Mm.
And that really set us back, whether it's from a person or even contracts you signed, right? So we had some people that we signed some big outsourcing, right, to do marketing for us. It just wasn't a good fit. And I think we spent a long time trying to make it work, right? And that sucks up a lot of energy,
Mm.
right? And focus when you could be doing other things, right? And then realize it's not going to work and moving on.
Those initial hires, what would you say are some of the most crucial roles that you would recommend extra effort or focus or attention to in that 10 to 20 range?
So this is a hard thing to define on a piece of paper, but I think what's really important on the early hires are finding people that fit the startup mentality, meaning they're willing to come in and roll up their sleeves,
Mm.
do a lot of different things,
Mhm.
which may be considered, right, maybe beneath their pay grade,
Yeah.
if you will, as well as being flexible in kind of thought. I was doing this today, we're not doing this now, we're doing it this way, right? And that is a kind of a hard personality set to find. And I think what we led with initially was finding the people that were willing to be fit that mold with us versus necessarily finding the skill set, with the exception of technology, right?
Okay. Right. Right.
So when you're looking at kind of operational sales, marketing, you don't have those systems set up, and what you did today might change tomorrow. And I think you have to find the right flexible people. And we have people with us that were with us from the beginning, and we'll just continue to find a role for them. Right. And what happens now is they know the company better than anybody else, except for maybe, right, the founders. Right. So they become really valuable down the road. Right.
Mhm.
And they're willing to go through those changing environments.
Yeah.
That said, we're a technology company. And so the other really great lucky hire we found is somebody kind of Zach Girard to lead our technology that is also really skilled at building the technology.
Mm.
Very hard thing to find together, right?
When did you find that individual, Zach?
So we actually outsourced the initial build of our software
Okay.
because we were moving fast
Yes.
and we had a client,
Ready
right?
to
So,
need to make it happen.
yeah, we outsourced that. And then as we were building that, we went and found Zach. So he came in, helped oversee that, but then he was really be able to take that and take charge of the data and technology, right? So he's on the back end side. We're a data company. Everything about the back end is important, right? And so then we quickly brought those talents in-house.
Gotcha. It was crucial that you had that well underhand because that is the core of your business. But it's interesting as non-technical co-founders, both of you,
Yep.
to start this. It works to outsource at the beginning, but having someone fairly early on that owns it, who's internal.
Yes.
And how did you find Zach? Like if someone's trying to say, I want to hire somebody that can take, they're a non-technical co-founder and they want to find somebody like that. What's a good method and to find someone like that?
Well, we ran through networks, and
Yeah.
that is really like, and a lot of the hiring we've done so far is just through personal networks. So it does, Hussein is, he's the son of a diplomat. And so I just look at that and he just embodies that personality trait. And I mean, everybody he's ever worked with is somebody he's still connected to, right? And he's, that has been very, very valuable. So I actually think really Zach came from a professor that he had, I don't know if it was when he was getting his MBA or his architecture degree, that he was still in touch with, had a son that had done a startup who knew Zach, right? So
Wow.
You have to run that network, and not just from your first or second degree, but potentially like third degree of separations, right? And remember the storyline of, hey, they knew somebody, they were in the startup world, they had somebody. As you get bigger, your hiring strategy changes, but that is really the way we started initially.
Gotcha. So having that core team allows you to then build the right product, the good product that you can build on, and then to scale, you do need more customers and clients. When it comes to marketing, what have you seen as maybe some of the common mistakes that one has made? Maybe you've made a few that you've learned from and have grown and have been able to go past from.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned from, I don't know what the right answer is yet, right?
We're all growing, we're all learning. Yeah.
We've gone from the marketing standpoint. I think initially we were kind of pigeonholed ourselves into like trying to solve one specific problem when we have a technology that solves a lot of problems, and how to explain that. Right. So we're looking to broaden out that message now. We did think, oh, well, we don't have the right marketing skills, so let's go and outsource to a high level marketing company. That could be a great solution. It's very expensive. And so I think right now we just hired a director of marketing, and it seems like the best thing ever. Right. And probably we could have saved the money on the big marketing firms and had somebody with the expertise in-house sooner, would have, I think, given us kind of gotten where we are faster.
And would you just say because that they could be more core to the technology, the product itself? Is that, or is it still too soon to know the difference between external versus internal?
I think you have somebody that understands the messaging you're trying to get out at a more intimate level, and actually understands kind of the restraints on the company when it comes to money. So, and if you have somebody that's experienced, they know what leverage to pull. Right. So let's do digital marketing, right? But let's do it, through just Google AdWords or LinkedIn, and we get ourselves out there. It doesn't cost a lot of money, right? Versus, do we need a fancy new, video, right? That can be very expensive, or can we just do little clips, right? And them also just having their own network in the industry, right, is very, very important.
Interesting. It's both the connections there, but it's the frugality potentially, or exactly. Being able to be scrappy with the resources that you have. Interesting. Now, are you guys this is the large sales, so it's sales led. So are you still doing the sales yourself as founders, or have you started to build a sales team, and how does that go? How's that work?
So, I mean, I think this is standardly true that initially the founders, right, are running the sales and the sales team. And we do sell to rather large clients, right? So it is a kind of enterprise sale type dynamic. But so now we have brought in a head of sales, right? But it's always a chicken and the egg with startups, right? You have to have enough success to bring in the talent that's going to propel you to the next level, right? Yes. And so a lot of that initial success, right, is you kind of build with your initial team, even from the technology standpoint. I mean, we have a great team on the technology side, right? But we have to build the vision, right, that we're selling, to bring in the talent to take it to the next level. And I think the same thing is on the sales side, right? So now we have enough track record, we can bring in the really good sales team, because they now can see how quickly this technology can move.
Always the chicken and the egg of when can you happen, when can you switch?
So we brought in, I think, a head of sales early, and it wasn't successful. And it could have been the individual, it could have been the timing, right? And so, because we were like, oh, we need sales. But really, maybe what we needed was to build the company a little bit more to bring in the big sales guy.
Powerful knowledge that maybe only comes through experience. But that's why it's helpful to hear the stories, because that's actually what helps others be able to make. For you as a leader, how where have you gotten your insight? Books, podcasts, audiobooks, anything that you can share that has helped you grow as a leader?
I'm a big believer that you get insight from a lot of different areas. So one is just doing things and being out in the world, right? Talking to people, right? It's incredibly valuable.
Life.
Yeah. and then just translating it back to whatever the issue is at hand or the problem set that you have at hand. Podcast right now that I love is I think it's How I Built This.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Love it.
Well, that's basically a chance to see the School of Hard Knocks in someone else's shoes.
Yeah. And I've always loved, which is, I guess, why I'm doing it, right? The story of the startup, right? So I think I just happened to hear one in the car the other day on Kodiak cakes, which is just totally different world, non-technology, right? Pancakes, which I think we have in our cupboard anyway. And it's just a very interesting, long story, right? About just coming back to something. And then I also did, because it's just in the news every day right now, Robinhood. Fascinating, because I actually had no concept of the technology and the people behind Robinhood. I just understood it as an app. So just actually really interesting.
So to be able to hear those stories that actually empower you and keep you learning and growing in your own journey.
Absolutely. I mean, I read a fair amount of books. I love Malcolm Gladwell. He's amazing and accessible, but yes. And then I actually read, which I thought was really interesting. I don't read as much fiction as I used to, and I really much prefer the business books and nonfiction now. But I read The Biggest Bluff. And I can't remember the author. It's a woman author. And she actually went through and decided to teach herself poker and to kind of run through that kind of experienced journalism, and go. But it's how she was looking at the world and learning something new, and how that affected and changed the way she viewed the world. So it's it happens to be poker, right? Which brings in all kinds of interesting psychology. But that was actually a fun read.
Well, thank you so much, Alex, for both sharing where you get your insights, but your journey itself, which has been fascinating to hear, and you're still on the way. There's still lots to uncover and experience. For those that want to learn more about Eyrus, definitely go to listen to part 1 of our interview. Go to uptechreport.com to be able to hear that. But you can also be able to check out their website, eyrus.com, which is EYRUS.com. And you can give them a call to learn more about their workforce visibility tool to be able to help there. Thank you so much for the time, Alex. It's great to have you on.
Thank you.
Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.